The dust always rose slowly over the ranch each morning, drifting across the wooden fences and dry fields like a warning carried on the wind. That day, the quiet tension felt heavier, as if every grain of dirt already knew trouble lived inside the training pen. The ranch hands didn't talk or laugh like they usually did. They stood shoulder to shoulder, hands gripping the fence line, eyes locked on the huge German shepherd moving inside the enclosure. Rex paced like a storm that had never learned to rest. His claws scraped deep marks into the ground. His tail stiff, his breath short and sharp. Muscle rippled beneath his dark coat as he charged from one end of the pen to the other, snapping at the air whenever a shadow twitched. Everyone watching kept a careful distance. Not one of these men who had worked with wild stallions, bulls, and unpredictable rescue dogs, dared to step closer. Rex was no ordinary dog. He was the most dangerous ex-police K-9 the department had ever retired. His name once inspired pride, and officers used to praise his discipline and speed. Now ranchers whispered it with unease, as if saying it too loudly might trigger him. Stories spread quickly, how he smashed steel kennels, how he bit through ropes, how he sent grown men to the hospital. 3 trainers had tried to work with him. All 3 had failed. 2 officers had needed stitches. 1 handler nearly lost his arm. Everyone believed the same thing. Rex could not be saved. Not with experience, not with training, not with patience. The head trainer himself, a man who had tamed more than a few creatures others feared, quietly admitted, some animals just break and never come back. No one argued. The morning heat had just begun to settle when a dusty pickup truck rumbled through the front gate. Most ranch hands didn't bother looking. People came and went often, especially with the heavy workload. But when the truck door opened, a few heads turned in surprise. A tiny girl hopped down from the passenger seat. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her blonde ponytail bounced with every small step she took, and her little boots were far too clean for a ranch coated in dirt and trouble. A bright backpack hugged her shoulders, and she looked around the wide yard with bright blue eyes full of curiosity, not fear, not hesitation, just innocent wonder. Behind her stepped her father, Ethan. He was a quiet, hard-working man who had taken a ranch job to earn steady pay and a safer life. He placed a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Stay close, Lily," he murmured softly. But Lily didn't hear him, or maybe she did, and simply didn't mind. Her attention locked onto the far pen where Rex paced like a trapped storm. Her head tilted slightly, studying him the way some kids watched butterflies. Ranch hands exchanged uneasy glances. "What's a kid doing here?" one whispered. "This place isn't safe for children," another muttered. Ethan walked toward the office, unaware of the way every man stared at Lily, partly worried, partly confused, and partly wondering why Rex had suddenly stopped moving. Because he had. For the first time that morning, Rex froze mid-pace, dust settling around his paws, his ears pulled forward, his eyes locked onto the small girl standing beside the office steps, as if the world had narrowed to only her. The men stiffened immediately. Rex never paused. He didn't calm for anything, not for shouting, not for food, not for commands. Yet now he stood completely still. Lily stared back at him with the same calm curiosity, her ponytail fluttering slightly in the warm breeze. While Ethan stepped inside the office, the ranch hands whispered, "Why is he looking at her like that? Does he know her? That dog doesn't know anyone. He hates everyone." But there was no hatred in Rex's eyes, only something the men couldn't name. Later that afternoon, the temperature rose, baking the ground beneath heavy sun as the ranch hands gathered for Rex's daily behavioral test. They formed a loose circle around the pen, gripping ropes and poles as the head trainer stepped forward. "Just a routine drill," he announced. Though everyone knew nothing about Rex was routine. Inside the enclosure, Rex tore back and forth, his body tense, his growl low, his movements unpredictable. Dust swirled behind him with every violent turn. Across the yard, Ethan walked out of the office wiping sweat from his brow. Lily trailed beside him, bouncing lightly on her toes. She wasn't frightened by the rattling fence or the yelling ranchers. Her attention drifted instantly toward Rex again. but Ethan had no idea she had stopped following. He reached the stables alone. Lily didn't follow him, not this time. Her steps slowed as she watched Rex slam against the side of the pen. Something in her small face softened, the same strange calm from the morning washing over her again. Then, without warning, she slipped away. One tiny step, then another, straight toward the training arena. "Lily," Ethan called, suddenly realizing she wasn't beside him. His voice cracked with panic as he spotted her small figure approaching the pen. The ranchers turned their heads. Silence fell instantly. Rex turned too. His body stiffened, his eyes sharpened, his muscles coiled tight like a bowstring pulled to its limit. "Someone stop her," one man shouted. "Ethan, grab your kid," but no one could reach her in time. Lily walked with small, steady steps, her blonde ponytail swaying in the warm wind like she was heading toward an old friend instead of the most feared dog on the entire ranch. Then everything happened at once. Rex lunged, the sound of his paws tearing into the ground, cracked through the air. Dust exploded behind him as he shot forward with terrifying speed. His growl tore across the pen like thunder, shaking every nerve in the men watching. "Get her out of there. Grab the dog. Ethan, run." Ethan sprinted, but fear slowed him. The ranchers reached for ropes, poles, anything, but Rex was too fast, too powerful. The gate latch, loosened earlier during the struggle, rattled violently. Then it slipped. The gate burst open. Rex was free. He was running straight at Lily with a force that made every ranch hand's stomach drop. Ethan screamed her name, his voice hollow with terror. But Lily didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't even blink. She simply lifted her small hand, soft, calm, steady, like she was greeting a gentle house pet instead of a raging beast. Rex skidded so hard the earth split beneath his paws. His massive body jerked backward mid-lunge. The furious bark that had been rising in his throat vanished into silence. His eyes widened, his chest heaved, and then, impossibly, he lowered his head, just inches from her tiny fingertips. A hush fell over the ranch, heavier than anything the men had ever felt. No one moved. No one breathed. The dust slowly floated to the ground between Rex and the girl, settling like soft red mist. Rex didn't growl. He didn't snap. He didn't show the slightest hint of aggression. He was calm, completely, unbelievably calm. Lily smiled softly. Rex responded by lowering his ears, his entire posture folding into something gentle and unrecognizable. Ethan stumbled to a stop, breath shaking, unable to understand how his daughter had just done the one thing no trainer, no officer, no expert ever could. The ranch hands stared in stunned silence. One whispered, What did she just do?" For the first time since arriving, another murmured, voice cracking, "Rex isn't a monster, he was something else. Calm, grounded, gentle, because of a little girl." The ranch felt different the next morning. A quiet heaviness hovered over the dusty yard, carried by the early breeze like the ranch itself was still trying to understand what had happened the day before. Men who usually joked while feeding the horses now kept glancing toward Rex's enclosure, whispering the same thing. How did a 6-year-old stop him? Ethan tried to stay close to his daughter while stacking hay bales in the barn. His hands shook slightly every time he remembered Rex's teeth, inches from Lily's face. He had barely slept, replaying the scene over and over, unable to understand how she survived. "Stay right here," he told her firmly, kneeling to meet her eyes. "Promise me, Lily. Don't go near the pens today." She nodded, but her gaze drifted past him, toward Rex's enclosure, and then he looked away for only 1 second. That was all she needed. By the time Ethan turned around, Lily was already gone, her small boots tapping softly across the dusty yard, headed straight toward Rex's pen, with a calmness that didn't belong to a child. Inside the enclosure, Rex wasn't snarling, pacing, or snapping at shadows like usual. Instead, he moved slowly, almost restlessly, his eyes scanning the yard as if searching for something or someone. Then he saw her. The instant his ears twitched and his eyes focused on Lily's tiny figure, Rex froze, his whole body stilled, and he stepped closer, not with aggression, but with a strange gentleness none of the ranch hands had ever witnessed. A rancher holding a coffee cup nearly dropped it. "He's walking toward her," he whispered. "No way," another breathed. Lily pressed both of her hands against the fence. Rex didn't charge. He didn't growl. He stepped forward slowly, his nose brushing the metal bars as if greeting her. She giggled softly, a light sound that spread across the yard like sunlight. "Hi, doggy," she whispered. Rex exhaled through his nose, warm air brushing her fingers. Then something unthinkable happened. Lily gently slipped her hand through a wide gap in the fence and touched his cheek, smooth, calm, fearless. Rex closed his eyes. For the first time since he'd arrived at the ranch, Rex allowed someone to touch him. No growl, no tension, only stillness. Ethan came running seconds later, his voice trembling. "Lily, don't." But when he saw the scene, he stopped cold. He couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. His daughter was petting the most dangerous dog on the ranch, and the dog looked peaceful. When Lily pulled her hand back, Rex didn't snarl or back away. He simply stepped aside, almost respectfully, as if acknowledging she belonged to someone who loved her. The head trainer, Grant, was speechless. "That girl," he murmured. "She's the only one he trusts." But none of them understood why. Not yet. That same afternoon, Ethan marched into the head trainer's office, with determination tightening his jaw. "I need answers," he demanded. "I want to know what happened to that dog." Grant didn't speak at first. Instead, he closed the office door, lowered his voice, and pulled out a thin file, Rex's police record. "You didn't hear this from me," he said quietly. "But if your daughter is going to be anywhere near that dog, you deserve to know the truth." Ethan hesitated, then opened the file. The first few pages were glowing reports, obedience scores, tracking excellence, brave rescues, but then suddenly, the tone shifted. The pages that followed felt like punches to the chest. Aggression, failed evaluations, emotional instability, unpredictable responses, near-violent outbursts. Ethan swallowed. What happened to him? Grant leaned back, eyes lowering. "A mission went wrong. A little girl was involved. She almost died." The words sank into Ethan like cold water. And Rex, after that, he changed. They couldn't fix him. Ethan closed the file slowly, heart pounding as the puzzle pieces came together. A girl, a scream, a trauma buried deep inside Rex. But there was still something missing, and the man who held the last piece was watching from the shadows. Caleb rarely spoke to anyone. He stayed on the edges of conversations, kept to himself, and avoided trouble. But today he stepped forward, his old boots crunching softly on the dirt as he approached Ethan outside the barn. "You were at the Ramirez case, weren't you?" Ethan asked carefully. Caleb nodded slowly, his voice low and rough. "Yeah, I saw everything." Ethan waited. Caleb lifted his hat slightly, revealing tired eyes filled with something heavy, something like guilt. "That dog didn't snap," he whispered. "He broke." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" Caleb shifted his gaze toward the pen where Rex was lying quietly, staring in Lily's direction. "There was chaos everywhere," Caleb said. "Shots fired, people screaming. The little girl fell. She wasn't badly hurt, but she was terrified. And when she looked at Rex, she didn't see the dog who saved her life." He swallowed hard. She saw everything else. The blood, the fear, the noise. She screamed. And that scream, it crushed him. He didn't understand. He thought he failed her. The truth hit Ethan like a blow. "He didn't turn dangerous," Caleb continued softly. "He turned heartbroken. The department blamed him. Her parents blamed him. They dragged him away like he did something wrong." Caleb looked at Lily and Rex with a weight in his eyes that came from witnessing something unforgettable. "That girl of yours," he whispered. "She's giving him the one thing he lost that day, trust." Later that week, Grant decided to try re-establishing control over Rex. Word spread quickly and ranch hands gathered again around the arena, shifting nervously. "This dog needs discipline," Grant announced, strapping on a thick protective sleeve. "He can't listen only to a child." But the men exchanged wary glances. They remembered the last time someone tried to discipline Rex. Grant stepped into the arena. Rex stiffened instantly. "Sit," Grant commanded. Rex didn't move. Grant stepped closer, Sit, Rex growled, deep and dangerous. The air crackled with tension. Back away, someone shouted. But Grant lifted the training baton, not to hit Rex, but to show authority. Rex exploded. He lunged so hard the ground trembled. Grant stumbled backward, barely avoiding the snapping jaws. Ranch hands yelled and scrambled for the ropes. Stop him. He's going to tear Grant apart. And then, a tiny voice cut through the chaos. Rex, no. Everything stopped. Rex froze mid-lunge, chest heaving, claws gripping the dirt. Slowly, he turned his head toward the arena gate. Lily stood there, small backpack slipping off one shoulder, eyes wide but steady. Rex's growl faded instantly. His ears lifted, his tail softened. He stepped away from Grant and walked straight to Lily. The huge dog lowered his head beside her leg, pressing his muzzle into her tiny hand, like a frightened child seeking comfort. Grant stared, stunned. This isn't training. One rancher whispered, he listens to her like she's his handler, and another added, voice trembling, she isn't training him, he's choosing her. For the rest of the day, the ranch buzzed with disbelief. Men replayed the moment again and again, trying to understand how one small girl could calm the dog no expert ever could. Lily began giving tiny commands she had seen the trainers use. Sit. Rex sat instantly. Stay. He froze. Come. He walked toward her gently, like she was the only safe place in the world. Night settled over the ranch as the truth slowly sank in. Rex wasn't responding to skill. He was responding to love, and Lily had reached the wounded part of him no one else could touch. The ranch finally understood. Rex wasn't dangerous. He was hurting, and Lily was slowly healing him. The sky was unusually still the next morning, the air heavy with a quiet tension that made every ranch hand glance toward Rex's enclosure more than once. Rumors had already spread across the property. The evaluation team from the county was coming today. Their job was simple, cold, and unforgiving. Decide if Rex could be saved, or if his story had reached its final page. Grant paced across the yard, his jaw tight with nerves. Even he, the toughest trainer on the ranch, couldn't hide the worry in his voice as he barked orders. Secure the arena. Double-check the gates. No mistakes today. The ranch hands worked quickly, their boots kicking up dust as they tightened chains and shifted equipment. Everyone knew what this evaluation meant. One more failed test could end Rex's life forever. Ethan kept Lily close, his hand gripping hers tightly. He tried to smile at her, but the worry in his eyes gave him away. Lily looked toward Rex's pen, sensing something was wrong even if she didn't fully understand it. Daddy, she whispered softly. Rex is scared. Ethan swallowed, following her gaze. Rex was sitting in the corner of his enclosure, not pacing, not snapping, not growling. His ears were tilted forward, eyes fixed on Lily's small figure as if she were the only stable thing in his world. He can feel it, Ethan murmured. He knows something's happening. A white truck rolled into the yard, carrying 3 men in uniform. They stepped out with clipboards, protective gear, and the steady confidence of people who dealt with dangerous animals daily. Their expressions held no warmth, only calculation. Grant greeted them stiffly. This is Rex. One evaluator raised an eyebrow. The same dog from the Ramirez case. A quiet tension rippled through the ranch hands, but Grant only nodded. Proceed, the lead evaluator ordered. The arena gate opened, and Rex was led inside on a thick chain. The moment the chain tightened, his body tensed, his breathing quickened, his ears flattened, and his eyes darted around as if ghosts lurked in every shadow. Grant lifted his voice. Rex, sit. Rex snarled violently. That's 1 strike, the evaluator muttered, marking his clipboard. Grant tried again. Sit. Rex lunged, teeth snapping inches from the trainer's arm. The evaluator holding the chain was yanked forward, barely staying on his feet. That's 2. Ethan gripped Lily painfully tight. His heart pounded. The ranch hands exchanged grim looks. Everyone understood the silent rule. 3 strikes, and Rex would be put down. Grant stepped forward cautiously. Rex, heel. Rex didn't hear him. He didn't see the men. He didn't understand the commands. All he saw were flashes from that terrible night. The scream, the fear, the blood, the little girl he couldn't comfort. His mind wasn't in the arena. It was trapped in the past. Rex lunged again, panic tearing through him. That's the evaluator began. But he never finished the sentence, because at that exact moment, Lily slipped from Ethan's grip. "Lily," Ethan shouted, reaching for her. His voice cracked with terror, but she was already under the fence, already running toward Rex with small, determined steps, her blonde ponytail bouncing behind her like a bright flicker of hope. The entire arena fell silent. Rex froze mid-lunge, his claws dug into the dirt, his chest heaved. His eyes found Lily the way a drowning man finds air. She walked straight to him. No fear, no hesitation. "Rex," she whispered, soft as a breath. He lowered his head instantly. Lily reached out and placed her tiny hand on his cheek, just like she had done through the fence days earlier. And Rex melted. His body loosened. His breathing slowed. His tail softened. He sat down perfectly, leaning into her touch like she was the only gentle thing left in the world. The evaluators stared, speechless. "This isn't aggression," one whispered, lowering his clipboard. "This is trauma," another said, voice shaking. "And she's the cure." The lead evaluator finished quietly. Grant exhaled shakily, running a hand through his hair. He had never seen anything like it. None of them had. Ethan fell to his knees, breath trembling as he watched his daughter calm the dog. Everyone believed was beyond saving. But fate wasn't done testing Rex. Not yet. Storm clouds rolled in by noon, dark and heavy. Wind whipped across the ranch, rattling loose doors and shaking metal panels. Most of the men rushed to secure equipment before the weather worsened. Lily sat near the arena fence, humming softly as she braided tiny flowers into Rex's collar. Rex lay beside her, calm and still, eyes half closed in the kind of peace he hadn't felt in years. Inside the equipment shed, a metal latch rattled violently under the push of the rising wind. A young, unbroken stallion tied inside grew restless, eyes wide, nostrils flaring. Before anyone noticed, the latch snapped open with a deafening crash. The stallion reared, screaming in panic, then bolted out of the shed at full speed, straight toward Lily. "Lily, move!" Ethan shouted, dropping everything and sprinting across the yard. Ranch hands yelled, tools clattered, boots thundered across the dirt, but Lily stood frozen, too shocked to react. The stallion charged closer, muscles twisting beneath its hide, hooves tearing up the ground. The animal was terrified, wild, impossible to stop in time. But Rex didn't hesitate. His ears shot up, his body stiffened, and in one explosive moment, he launched himself forward like a missile. "Rex, no!" someone screamed, thinking he was going for Lily. But Rex wasn't attacking her. He was protecting her. He hurled himself into the stallion's path with fearless strength, slamming his body against the horse's powerful legs. The stallion stumbled violently, losing balance just enough to veer away from the small girl. It crashed into a dirt mound instead of trampling her. Chaos erupted instantly. Ranch hands sprinted to calm the horse. Someone grabbed Lily, pulling her back. Grant fought to regain control of the frightened stallion, but Rex didn't move. He stood between Lily and the danger, body lowered, teeth bared, growling deep and protective, ready to take another hit if he had to. Ethan collapsed beside his daughter, breath broken. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Lily nodded shakily. "Rex saved me," she whispered. Grant approached slowly. "That dog just risked his life for her." Caleb nodded, voice low. "That's what he was trained to do, protect the innocent, even if it means hurting himself." Rex finally relaxed, staggering slightly from the impact. Lily rushed to him and wrapped her arms around his neck. Rex pressed his head into her chest, whining softly, not in pain but in relief. He didn't attack, one rancher whispered, eyes wide. He protected, another breathed. and the truth settled over the ranch like a heavy revelation. The evaluation team returned that evening. They didn't bring clipboards this time. They brought papers. The lead evaluator spoke softly. After what we witnessed today, Rex won't be labeled aggressive anymore. Ethan felt tears burn his eyes. Grant looked at Lily with a proud, almost emotional smile. He's not staying here, he added. Lily's eyes widened. He's not? The evaluator shook his head gently. He's going wherever she goes. Rex perked up instantly, tail thumping against the ground. Lily laughed with pure joy and rushed to hug him. Rex lowered himself into her arms as if he belonged there, and in that moment, everyone realized he did. Rain began to fall softly over the ranch, washing the dust from the ground and cooling the evening air. Ethan wrapped his jacket around Lily, while Rex stood pressed against her side, refusing to let her out of his sight. "You saved him," Ethan whispered to his daughter. She looked up with innocent certainty, because he needed someone. Grant handed Ethan a folder. His papers are signed. Rex is officially hers now. Caleb tipped his hat, misty-eyed. "Some souls aren't meant to be trained," he murmured. "They're meant to be understood." The next morning, sunlight glimmered across the ranch like a fresh start. Lily walked proudly through the yard, her backpack bouncing. Rex trotted beside her. No chain, no fear, no hesitation, just trust. Ethan watched them with a full heart. Rex wasn't the wild dog nobody could tame. He was the loyal protector a little girl chose, and who chose her back. If this story touched your heart even a little, please show some love. Stories like Rex and Lily remind us that even the most broken souls can find hope again. Sometimes all it takes is kindness. Hit like if you believe every animal deserves a second chance. Subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this. And tell me in the comments, would you have trusted Rex the way Lily did? Your support keeps these stories alive.